again. Thanks for a very, I'm very humbled by whatever you spoke about me. Thank you, Vasudev. I've enjoyed my every month experience with your very committed group. And the way the group would chant Omkara, I mean, those things we miss in these online meetings. Today, I thought I will share about Sri Dakshinamurti Stotra. This was a stotra that I got to learn first. My introduction to Vedanta came through Sri Dakshinamurti Stotra. Just give me one moment to screen share. I'm not able to share it. One moment. I'm not able to screen share.
What is happening? What is happening? Can you just let us know?
Yeah, I'm not able to. I tried both window and entire screen. It has come now. It has come.
Yeah, it may be a little slow because of the bandwidth. So you can just,
Now, can you see my screen?
Yeah. Now we can see. Please try presentation mode, sir.
Yes.
Working well.
Yes. The reason I chose Sri Dakshinamurti Stotra for understanding Vedanta. Normally, Dakshinamurti Stotra is given to students after many years of Vedantic understanding. It was my chance to listen to Sri Dakshinamurti Stotra, audio recording of it by Swami Anubhavananda, far from the mainland of India in Port Blair. That was the first time I ever got to know something about Vedanta. And listening to his audios, I was so impressed and so caught on. I would spend the whole night listening to these audios of his talks again and again. And today I will begin by sharing whatever I have understood. Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. The word Sadashiva in this mantra means Sri Dakshinamurti. Dakshinamurti is revered as the Adi Guru of the Brahma Vidya. And the message of Brahma Vidya has been made more meaningful to us by the commentaries of the great Adi Shankaracharya. And through the parampara of Guru Shishya up to my Guru, and that is how we have got it. So it is our tradition to offer namaskara to Dakshinamurti, to Adi Shankara, to my Guru, and to all our Gurus before we begin. Let us just watch this picture of Sri Dakshinamurti. And characteristic is you see a lot of symbolism of Shiva. You see the crescentic moon, you see the Damaru, you will see the serpent somewhere around. So these are all the symbolisms of Shiva. But the Shiva face of Dakshinamurti is so different from the Shiva face we know. We have a very youthful person who is very characteristic pose. One pose you will see is the Chin Mudra. The right hand is in Chin Mudra. The right leg is on Apasmara. Apasmara means forgetfulness. That means Sri Dakshinamurti is telling us all the time to keep one foot on, to remember the Vedantic teaching all the time. And if you can see, this Apasmara has got a knife in the hand. The knife represents that if I am not able to control, if I forget this wisdom, this Apasmara has the ability to conceal my true nature. I forget who I am. And once I forget who I am, this Apasmara has also got the ability to project a newer you, and which is the cause of all samsara. The tradition that we are in is called Advaita Vedanta. Now I want you to focus on the word Advaita. Advaita represents, it does not say one, it says not two. Why do you say not two? Because in our experiences, we experience more than one. So even though I experience more than one, the teaching is, although my experiences is plurality, I will say it is not two. That means it is only one. What is this only one that we are talking? This can be example of the Nataraja pose. The Nataraja pose is representing of the same thing, of the creator and the creation. Here you have the creator, and the whole creation is the dance of the creator. Now, if you see a dancer dancing, you will see the dance is separate, the dancer is separate. But can you separate the dancer from the dance? Can you separate the singer from the song? Can you separate the creation from the creator? Although it is two, it is not two. Then what is it? It is only one. You need to find that one truth, that is Brahma Satyam, and all that appears is of a lower order of reality is called Jagan Mithya. That means whatever I see and experience is of a lower order compared to the experiencer in me. Now, these are all very difficult to understand. And in order to be able to understand all these things, we need a lot of grace. That is why Adi Shankara has composed a wonderful stotra. A stotra is the praise of the Lord. And by praising the Lord, it is possible that you get certain yogyata. You get a certain ability to be able to understand this. Adi Shankara has composed a praise for Lord Dakshinamurti. Why do we revere Lord Dakshinamurti? Because two or three things. Number one is, any Brahma Vidya Acharya is revered. So one of the highest reverences we have for anybody is an Acharya, and that too an Acharya of Brahma Vidya, and the Adi Brahma Vidya Acharya is given the highest reverence to. Also, Shiva is seen as a person who destroys. What does Shiva destroy? Shiva is the one who destroys ignorance. And that is where we see we have a greater reverence. We don't see Shiva as the one who destroys this world, but the Shiva is the one who destroys ignorance. So this duality, although I see multiplicity, I know the reality is the seer in me. The consciousness in me is the truth. And to be able to understand it requires a certain amount of yogyata, and that comes through the preparatory schools called Sadhana Chatustaya Sampanna. What is the meaning of the word Dakshinamurti? The word Dakshinamurti has got two important meanings. If you go to any temple anywhere, you will see the idol is either facing east or facing north. Very few idols face the west, but you will never see any idol facing south. In our tradition, south is considered inauspicious because if you turn south, it is supposed to be you're facing Yamadharmaraja. But Lord Shiva is also Mrityunjaya. And to show that he is the Lord of Yama, he is not afraid of facing south. And so deliberately all forms of Dakshinamurti idols will be always facing south. The other meaning of Dakshina comes from Daksha means skilled. So the Lord Dakshinamurti is a skilled communicator. Now, if you have to communicate anything, it requires a certain amount of skill. But if you have to be a teacher in worldly knowledge, like if you want to teach about any medical science or engineering science, it is a certain object. For us in medical science, when we are teaching students about the brain or the heart, it is an object. I can show it, I can use some illustrations and help the students to understand what I'm talking about. The difficulty in Brahma Vidya is that there is no object that we can reveal, because what we are talking about, the essential subjectivity in all of us. And that subject is not even my body or the mind, but it is the witness of all these things. And therefore, it requires a great amount of skill. So, Amurti, the formless, skilled communicator, is the second meaning. The beauty of the Dakshinamurti Stotra is it is not only in the praise of the Adi Guru, but it is also packed verses. Swami Paramatmananda ji calls this atomic verses. Each of these verses are very loaded. And in today's class, I'm not going to make an attempt to cover the entire Dakshinamurti Stotra. I have not timed myself. I will see how many number of verses that we can do in today's class. And let us go to the actual verses. But before we go into the verses of this, we will go into the Dhyana Shlokas. The Dhyana Shlokas are particularly beautiful because here we have more of the symbolism of Dakshinamurti, and a lot of meaning is given to the form of Dakshinamurti. And all these Dhyana Shlokas have come from the direct disciple of Adi Shankara, Sureshwaracharya. It is Sureshwaracharya's Manasollasa. This says 144 verses, but I think it's almost 170 verses. So that means 10 verses of the Dakshinamurti Stotra. Each verse has been expanded more than 10 times. In fact, the first verse, Vishwam Darpana Drishyaman, is almost expanded to some 25 or 30 verses, and all of them are in prose form. So before we get into the Dhyana Shlokas, let us all look into this form of Sri Dakshinamurti, which is
Sir, you're on mute, please.
No, sir, not audible.
So suddenly we lost the audio. We lost the audio.
Sir, you're on mute.
We can't hear you, doctor. I think you're...
One second. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Yeah, no, I didn't do anything. I need help again. Siddhi?
Maybe Dakshinamurti wanted to teach in silence for a few minutes.
Possible. I'm not getting my screen now.
Okay.
Give me a moment.
No problem, sir.
I'll try. 1 second. Am I still audible now?
Yes, sir, audible.
Yes, sir. We can see the screen.
All right. So, Vani, I think Lord Dakshinamurti wanted us to experience silence. Just see whatever we can infer. The Mudita Vadanam. You see the smile on Lord Dakshinamurti's face, and this smile comes from Swatma Ramam. There is that inner joy which is manifesting in the smile. You see that youthful face, you see the chin mudra. All these things will be described in the opening verse. Can I request Shamala to chant this for us, please? Shamala, please.
Yeah. मौनव्याख्या प्रकटित ब्रह्मत्वं
त्वं युवानम् शिष्ठान्तेव सदृशिगणैः आवृतनिष्ठैः आचार्येन्द्रं करकलितचिन्मुद्रम् आनन्दमूर्तिम् आत्मारामुदितवदनं दक्षिणामूर्तिमीडे.
Thank you, Shamila. I'll be calling you again and again.
Sir, a request when Shamlaji chants, if you can mute, then humming will be reduced.
Oh, okay. All right.
And then you can unmute when you have to resume speaking.
All right.
Thank
Unfortunately, I'm not able to see any of the control buttons when I make it full screen.
So, okay, that's fine, sir. Let it be. That's fine.
Because if I can see the controls, then I can do it.
Yes, understand. Okay.
All right. Shall I continue?
Okay. Please continue.
Let's look at the last line. Swatma Ramam, I have already described. Someone who is reveling within himself, and because the joy is within, once you have discovered your true self, then you are a true source of peace, security, and happiness. That is what happens with the discovery of one's true nature. Mudita Vadanam, there is that smiling face. To that Dakshinamurti, I make my offerings. I'll go to the third line. Acharyendra. The word Indra as a suffix means the superior most. Acharyendra, the highest. So wherever the word Indra comes, Gajendra, that means the king among elephants. Wherever, so Acharyendra, definitely because he's the Adi Brahma Vidya Guru. Kara Kalita. Kara means hand, gesture. He's sporting a gesture. And what is he sporting? Chinmudra. Now, this is very important for symbolic of Sri Dakshinamurti, Ananda Murti. Chinmudra represents, the index finger represents our transactional personality, my ego self. And this ego self is a limited self. It is limited by my gross body, my subtle body, my causal body. And these three represent Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, the waking state, the dream state, the deep sleep state. And when I have Brahma Vidya, or when I'm working for Brahma Vidya, Sri Dakshinamurti says we consciously move from the relative to the absolute. My thumb indicates the Parabrahma Tattva, which is there in the first line, Parabrahma Tattvam. So when I surrender, suddenly I become a circle. A circle has no beginning, no ends, and that represents Purnatva. We go again to Varshishte. It means aged students. Ante Vasat. Ante Vasat means who are residing close by. Now, even in medicine, you have what is called a residency program. In a residency program, what happens? All the doctors who are training to go for a super specialization or a specialization stay close to the senior doctor or the specialist and see exactly how he handles patients, how he treats patients, how he does the operations. And that is why it requires that you need to reside close to. And this is our Gurukula system, Ante Vasat. That means they reside close to the Guru. And when you reside close to the Guru, you have not only a verbal communication. If the teacher teaches you formally, you have a verbal communication. But then a good student is able to get a lot of non-verbal communication. And that is the significance of Maunam Vyakya. Whenever you are with a great Acharya, it is so important that you need to be sensitive to the body language of the teacher. You are not only listening to whatever he says, the silence in between the words, or his whole being is very much communicating. Sometimes even a glance by the teacher can be so loaded. And that is why a student needs to be very, very aware. It is said that whenever you read the old Buddhist texts, which have been written by Ananda, Ananda is the older brother of Gautama Buddha, and Buddha was a picture of awareness. Everything he would do is so fully and awareful. And Ananda was so closely observing that every text of that Ananda writes gives an elaborate description of how Buddha walked, how Buddha sits down, how he puts his robe across his shoulder, where he rests his hand, how he puts his attention in front of him. And then this description goes on, and very Western authors are wondering, why are they giving so much importance? Because when you become, when you close to awareness, and when you are close to a Brahma Vidya Acharya who is a realized Acharya, you will see that everything that the teacher does is a manifestation of the Parabrahma Tattvam, which is manifest in human form. And that is why through Mauna Vyakya, even though the teacher may not communicate in words, there is a lot that you can observe. So the first word is Om, Maunam Vyakya. That means a communication through silence. Prakatita, exposition on what? Parabrahma Tattvam, on the highest reality, Yuvanam, by a youth. Now, Swami Paramatmananda has given us a detailed understanding. What can a teacher teach through silence? Now, supposing Vani has called us for a meeting today on Sri Dakshinamurti Stotra, and all of us have assembled, and then whoever the teacher sits in silence, he may be an embodiment of silence, but for 1 hour, if you're sitting in silence, what is the knowledge that you will get? So Swamiji says, through silence per se, it is almost impossible to really be able to communicate. So what this Mauna Vyakya means through indirect communication. That means there are so many ways the teacher has a certain style of being able to communicate, not necessarily by words. It may be through a glance, it may be through any body language. So the teacher has an ability to communicate through words and through communicate without words also. How did the teacher communicate by words? Because all our Vedas are words, and these have come from the Adi Brahma Vidya Acharya, nobody else. So essentially, it is through words. There is a real recorded interaction between Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi and a group of disciples. And somebody asked him, Bhagwan, it is said that Sri Dakshinamurti was an embodiment of silence. How is that through silence he was able to communicate? Immediately Bhagwan said, no, it is not true. Dakshinamurti was teaching all the rishis. And you know, whenever you teach, and this is always there, the moment you teach something, along with knowledge, you also communicate a lot of doubts. You are teaching something, the student gets a certain amount of doubt. So the students were asking questions. More answers resulted in more questions. Can you see this? Sometimes it happens. You know, the teacher tries to give answers to one question, gives an answer to one question, but that kindles off more questions. Finally, it is said that Dakshinamurti said he kept silence. He stopped answering all questions. And the miracle was our second Dhyana Shloka. I will ask Shamala to chant it for us. We'll go to the third one. Shamala, the third one, this one.
Chitram Katarormule Vruddha Shishya Gurva Gurostu Maunam Vyakhyam Shishyastu Chin Samshayaha.
Thank you, Shamala. If I had a knob to see where I could mute myself, I could have done it. I'll explain this verse. Although we know this verse, I have jumped one or two Dhyana shlokas. I will go back to it. Chitram. Chitram also really means, Chitram means picture, but here Chitram comes from Vichitram, very strange. Vatataro mule. What is happening under the banyan tree? Vriddha Shishya. The students are all old. Guru Yuva. You have a young teacher. Gurusto Maunam Vyakhyana. The teacher is not uttering a single word. Shishya tu Chinna Samshaya. And very strangely, all the doubts of the students have disappeared. And that is the wonderful thing. So, what is the significance of this Maunam Vyakya? In the Taittiriya Upanishad, there is a verse which says, Yat vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. What does this mean? We are teaching a science which cannot be communicated through the mind or through the words. And that is where the limitations is. So the Acharya or the teacher can give words, but then remember, whatever the teaching is something beyond words, beyond the mind. Now the question often asked is, how does the teacher ever transmit Brahma Vidya if it is not something that can be communicated through words, cannot be grasped through the mind? Now my question that I've always asked is, can a skill be taught? That means, can you go to a great surgeon and say, I want to be a surgeon like you? Can I become a surgeon like you? Can I go to a great batsman and say, I want to be a batsman like you? Can the greatest of batsmen communicate their skills to their own children? The answer is both yes and no. A skill can never be taught because it is a skill. It is something so innate, and yet a good student is able to grasp it. And that is the beauty of Brahma Vidya. Brahma Vidya is something that can be grasped because that is how we have the lineage of teachers. And the teacher is somehow able to communicate and the student is somehow able to grasp it. Although these are all the techniques called indirect communication. One method of indirect communication is called Nisheda Vritti Upadesha. Like Mano Buddhi Hankara Chittani Naham. I keep negating. Whatever I'm talking about is not the mind, Manas, Buddhi, Ahankara, Chitta. You go on negating. This is called the Neti method. And when you go on negating, you come to a point where you cannot negate the one who is negating. You reach the negator. You come to the subject. So these are the methodologies of Brahma Vidya Acharya. The other two words which I have, one word which I have not explained is Brahmanishta. I missed explaining the word Brahmanishta. Normally the word Brahmanishta means the one who is anchored in Brahma Vidya. But here it has to be interpreted to be like all of us who are committed to Brahma Vidya. Now we are talking about Brahmanishta to all the students who are gathered around Sri Dakshinamurti. So those are the people who have a Tivra Mumukshutva, who have a keen desire to become, who have a keen desire to gain Brahma Vidya. I think we have not chanted this. Shamala, please.
Vatavitapi samipe bhumi bhage nishantam Sakalam nijananam jnanadharat Tribhuvana gurumeetam dakshinamuktisevam janana marana dukkha chedadaksham namami.
Thanks again, Shamala. Vata Vita Samipe. So under the banyan tree, on a slight elevation, Bhumi Bhage, just above the ground, Sakala Muni. Sakala means all these Muni Jananam, Jnana Data Jnanadatam Arat. Arat means here is the teacher who's giving the instructions direct. Here is the teacher who's giving the instructions directly. And what kind of a teacher? Tribhuvana Guru, the Lord of the three worlds. Tribhuvana Gurum Isham. Isham, that M should have gone with the Guru. Isham means the Lord. Dakshinamurti Devam. And what kind of Lord? Who is? Janana Marana Dukkha Chedam Daksha Namami. I make my prostration to that person who is skilled in taking the dukkha of Janana and Marana. That means even though we are in the Janana Marana cycle, this dukkha that we normally experience will be removed by this particular teacher. He is a skilled teacher, and that is why I make my prostration to Sri Dakshinamurti, who takes away this dukkha. This is over. Shamala, please.
निधये सर्वविद्यानां भिषजे भवरोगिणां गुरवे लोकानां दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः.
The word Nidhi means a collection. Nidhi also means a treasure. Nidhaye Sarva Vidyanam. My Lord is the abode, is a treasure, is a collection of all knowledge. Sarva Vidyana. Bishaye Bhavarogina. Bishay means a physician. He is a doctor who has the ability to treat the disease of Bhavaroga. Bhavaroga is considered that incurable problem of becoming. I will become happy when this happens. Now, if I am in that becoming phase, I will never be happy. Our teachers always say, if I am happy, if I am not happy here and now, I can never be happy when I become something, because we are always postponing happiness. And that postponing of happiness is the whole Bhavaroga, the incurable disease of samsara. And we have a skilled physician who has the ability to treat. Gurave Sarva Lokana. Who is the Lord of all the worlds? Dakshinamurti Namaha. I offer my prostrations to that Lord. Shamala, please.
Partaya Shuddha Jnanaikmurtaye Nirmalaya Prantaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha.
Om Nama Pranavarthaya. Pranava is also Omkara. The word Pranava means an ideal name. There is a lot of discussion on why Omkara is also called Pranava. Omkara is a single Akshara, and the Lord is also Ekam. Akshara means that which cannot be destroyed. Pranava, Omkara, has got two aspects. It has got a Saguna aspect. The A, U and Ma is the Saguna aspect, representing the three avasthas. The silence that comes after the chanting of A, U and Ma represents the Nirguna Brahman. That is why if you want the best name for Brahman or the Lord, so the name will be Omkara or Pranava. Om Nama Pranavarthaya Shuddha Jnanaika Murtaye. Murtaye, you are an embodiment of pure knowledge. Nirmala. Mala means impurity, one that has no impurity. Prashantaya, someone who is beyond Shanti and Ashanti. When you go beyond Shanti and Ashanti, that is Prashanti. Dakshinamurteye Namaha. I offer Namaskara. I think this will be the last Dhyana Shloka. Shamala, please. There is some distortion. I do not know how. All right. Shamala, we will give up that for now. Am I audible? Feedback?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You're audible.
Yes.
All right, Shamala, we'll try again a little later. There's a little problem now. Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Yomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Each of these dhyana shlokas are words for meditation. You know, what we need to take these as very sacred seeds so that in your heart, memorize these words and keep repeating these words, because these words are words for, you know, all the words that we have are representing Dakshinamurti. But this particular one talks about my Guru, it talks about myself. A very beautiful dhyana shloka, again from Sureshwaracharya's Manasollasa. Ishvara, that means Sri Dakshinamurti is Dakshinamurti. My Guru, 100% Dakshinamurti. Atmeti, now this is difficult to say that I am also Dakshinamurti. That means the student is a Dakshinamurti. The Guru is Dakshinamurti without doubt, and Dakshinamurti is Dakshinamurti. That means Murti Bheda Vibhagine. That one unit has divided itself into three. What are the three things that Dakshinamurti has divided? Into Ishvara, Guru, and Atma, myself. Murti Bheda Vibhagine. Each of them are space-like. Yomavad Vyapta Dehaya. Each of us are like all-pervading space, like Brahman. Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Shamala, one more attempt at chanting. I hope the audio comes. Let us see. Try. Let us be in silence and listen to what Shamala. This is mine is not a touch screen, Vasudev, so I will have, let me try to exit from here, and even when I exit from here, let me see if I can get my controls.
It could also be a bandwidth problem on her side, sir.
All right, maybe. All right, now I need to come back to my screen share. Are you seeing my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we are seeing your screen. We are seeing your full screen now.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the interruption, but we will continue. Now, again, as I said, all these are extremely beautiful dhyana shlokas. And once we know the meaning, our teachers say these are things to be memorized. And whenever you are by yourself, repeat these verses. Ishvara Guru Ratmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine. It takes a lot of courage to say, I am also Dakshinamurti. The glory of this understanding is the more you see divinity in yourself, the beauty is you see divinity in others also. If anybody claims that I am divine, you can be a little suspicious about that person. But if that person says, you know, you are divine, and if the person can clearly see divinity in others or works to help others discover the divinity in them, then you can see that person is a real teacher. So all these teachings are to help us to discover that when you say Ishvaro Guru Atmeti, everything that I see is none other than Sri Dakshinamurti himself. That means all of us. Now, whenever you see your Acharya, supposing my Guru comes in front of me or my Guru is here, is it possible for me to be sitting on this chair? Impossible, because I will suddenly come to a position of reverence, because here I will be seeing somebody whom I revere. And when you revere somebody, you will see a certain posture, you will see a certain way that you stand around a person. Now, you don't have to do a bodily posture, but if you can see your teacher in every being around you, what a wonderful world it would be if you can see divinity in everybody. Now, these are verses that help you to see Dakshinamurti first in yourself. If you can be able to silently claim that there is that element of Dakshinamurti. My body-mind may be limited, but Dakshinamurti is evident in me. If it is evident in me, it should be evident in everybody. So everybody I come in contact, be a patient, be it my driver, be it my person who helps in the cleaning of my house, if I can treat each person with that level of reverence, because now I know everyone is a manifestation of Dakshinamurti itself. With this background, we will come to Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari. And Shamala, one more attempt. I think there is an internet issue on your side. Let's try how this will come.
Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nitantargatam Pashyannatmani Mayaya Bahirvodbhutam Yatha Nityaya Yes, Sakshat Kurute Prabhu Samaye Atma Me Vadvayam Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namayidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namayidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye.
Thank you very much. This came out a little better, but there's a little distortion. But the significance is this. These are Sankirtana. We have to memorize them and we have to sing it. And once we sing it, then it becomes a form of a nididhyasanam. It becomes a form of a meditation. When you keep singing the same thing, the words will percolate into every part of the body. Remember, now let us get to the meaning, because if you know the meaning of these verses, and I know many of you who are listening are all students of Vedanta, you know the meaning of each word, but it will be nice for us to quickly revise. This particular verse is talking about the individual. It is talking about the Tvam Padartha. It is causing about myself. Vishwam. Vishwam means whatever I experience as not me. So here is Atma, I am the Atma. Whatever I can experience as not me, as an Atma, or the whole world of experience. The whole world of experience is Vishwam. This whole world that I experience can be compared to Darpana Drishyamana Nagari. This whole world can be taken as an image. Now, this has become very difficult, but from neurosciences, you will know 100% true what Sri Dakshinamurti is talking about. Now, if I have to see a tree with my eye, now you can see a picture of the eye, and you can see a tree there. How does the tree enter my eye? Because there is light. Light falls on the tree, and from the light on the tree, it is reflected through the lens, and there is an image of that tree on the retina. Now the tree has now become reduced to an image. You can take the tree to be the whole world. The whole world now has become an image. Now this image is processed by the computer of my mind, and I have two eyes, two video cameras. In both my eyes, there is an upside down small tree image. Now this computer has processed it, and in the occipital cortex I'm able to see one tree, not upside down there, and it will, although the tree is now inside me, inside my brain, but what I will get a projection that the tree is outside me. Now what do all these exercises say? This whole world, Sri Dakshinamurti and Adi Shankara in his brilliance has said, this whole world is only an image, and where is that image? This whole world is within me. Believe me. That means, normally we think that the world is outside me, but Adi Shankara is giving you proof, and we have now scientific proof. Although the world seems to be outside me, it is actually within me. So this is the first word. Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantargatam. It is actually within me. But then what happens? Pashyan Atmani Mayaya. Now the word Maya has come. Now Maya comes in every other word of Sri Dakshinamurti Stotra. That is why unless we are very clear about Maya, Sri Dakshinamurti Stotra becomes difficult. Right in the beginning of this talk, I told you the creator and the creation, the singer and the song, the dancer and the dance. Now, is the dance apart from the dancer? No, the dance is dependent on the dancer. The dance is, can you separate the dance from the dancer? Can you separate the song from the singer? So too is Maya and Brahman. So Brahman is the Adhishtanam. The whole world is the dance of the creator, which cannot be separated from the creator. And the dance or the song is certainly of a lower order of reality compared to the singer or the dancer. So that is how we need to be able to, and Maya is the appearance, the whole world. And what this verse says, Pashyan Atmani, although the Atma is the one who is seeing the whole world, it is because of Maya. Maya has a Shakti to make this imagery world appear to be outside, and although it is only imagery, it has the ability to make it real, just like in dream. The dream is actually within me. The dream is my own creation. I sustain my own dream. The dream resolves into me. But because of Nidra Shakti, because of my ignorance, and because of Nidra Shakti, Nidra has the ability to conceal the fact that I am the one who has created the dream. So although I created the dream, I am not aware of the fact that I am the creator of the dream. And therefore I enjoy or I suffer the dream, not knowing that I am the creator of the dream. The dream is inside me or outside me? The dream is inside me. But what do I feel? The dream is outside me. The dream is real or unreal? The dream is unreal. And the last line says, Yes Sakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye, at the time of enlightenment or at the time of waking up from the dream, what do you realize? You realize that the dream is Advayam. It is not apart from me. At the time of realization, the Jivatma, all of us suddenly realize that this whole world of appearances is not apart from me. This is the masterpiece first word. At this point, if anybody has a little discussion, I'm willing to discuss this. But just let us look at this. This is a slide made by Dr. Sundar. Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari. This whole world is like an imagery seen on the mirror. Now, the mirror is the Adhishtanam, which is the supporter of this whole world. The mirror is of a higher order of reality, or Satyam, and everything that is seen is only an image. Now, if there is fire outside or if there is rain outside, it is not going to affect the mirror because the mirror is Asangatvam and it is not apart from the mirror. This is Advitiya. Now, these are the important facts both in the Darpana Nagari Drishtanta, or the example of the, so too the Atma is the Adhishtanam of the whole world. The Atma can never be affected by anything that happens in the world outside. Truly, if I identify with my dream, I suffer the dream. But if I know I'm the creator of my dream, good dream or bad dream, I'm only the illuminator of the dream. I enjoy my dream, or like I'm watching a movie, I know it is a movie. But in my dream, I get so involved. So too, we get so involved in this world. But once you know who you are, then you develop asangatvam. You are unaffected by anything that happens in the world outside. You realize that I am of a higher order of reality. I am Satyam. The world is of a lower order of reality. And very importantly, this is Advaita Vedanta. Advayam. I am not apart from the world. These are not two things. It is like the singer and the song is not two. The dancer and the dance is not two. Watch this dream example. Nijantargatam pashyan mayaya bahiribhut bhutam yata nidraya. Now the dream world is actually within me. Also remember, I am the creator of my dream. I am the sustainer of my dream. Because of my ignorance, although I am the creator of my dream, I now have become a creature in the dream. Now just imagine, and Swamiji says these things never happen in real life. In your dream, you will see so many things, but have you ever seen a guru coming in your dream? Now imagine a guru comes in your dream and tells you, now look, see that beautiful swing that you are swinging on from the moon is your own dream. You are the creator of the dream. And because you have a great reverence for your guru, remember this is a dream guru coming you in your dream and telling you that you are the one who have created the moon, you have created the swing, you have created a body for yourself, and you are now watching yourself swinging on that moon. Enjoy your dream. Now supposing you fall off from that swing as the dream continues, what will you do? You will laugh. Because although you fall off from the moon, you are not going to suffer the fall because now you are an awakened dreamer. Sri Dakshinamurti. That is why, what kind of yes sakshat kurute prabodha samaye. So when I wake up from my bigger dream, from the dream created by Maya, where I think I'm this limited individual and I see so many people around me, I see a big world, but I realize I'm actually Brahman. And this whole world has been the creation of my Maya Shakti. For this sakshatkara, when you wake up, what happens? This is very important. When you wake up from your dream, you will realize a few things. You will claim that I was the creator of my dream. I was the sustainer of my dream. The dream is not apart from me. But this is what is called sakshatkara. Sakshatkara is the one who claims I am that. It is not that I am seeing the Atma. It is not that I am seeing the dreamer. I claim or I know that I am the dreamer, or I know I am the Atma. This awakening is called sakshatkara, and this is the real awakening. This awakening happens thanks to Sri Dakshinamurti. Dakshinamurti is the one who wakes us up from our samsaric dream. And this is possible because of my living Dakshinamurti, my Acharya, my Guru. 49 minutes over. We can go to the next verse, but I would rather stop here because it is so loaded. I will be happy to be able to take any questions on the first verse, and I don't mind, continuing it in another session. We've already finished 50 minutes, but if there is any interaction, Vani and Vasudev, I'll stop sharing.
Anyone who has questions could unmute and ask, or you could type on the chat.
Guruji, my name is Venkatesh. Namaste. This first sloka is always a big confusion for so many years for me. In the tree, which example you have given, the tree is outside and the image is in the retina. So the real tree is outside and the unreal tree is in the retina. So if that is the case, so why do we think that the world is inside me when the actual tree is outside, which I am experiencing?
Very, very, very relevant question that you have said. Now, remember, we are trying to communicate something that is very difficult to communicate. And whenever we give examples, we should be able to see what the example is trying to communicate and what the example is not trying to communicate. Now, when we try to go to that real tree, we go beyond the limits of the example to communicate. All right. I hope you have understood that. So if you say, oh, there is a real tree and then there is an image, now we have gone beyond the utility of this example. This example will become useful only in this context. Now, We can still go, unfortunately, this is not a real meeting. Now imagine this is a real meeting. I'm in a classroom with some 30, 40. How many people are here? We are 65 of us. Let's supposing there is a class with 65 of us around. I am seeing 65 people sitting in front of me. Now, although I'm seeing 65 of you, now this experience of seeing the 65, is it happening there or is it happening here? Through my dream, through the same imagery example, unless all of you come into my retina, unless all of you come into my brain, I will never be able to see you. You know, how do we experience this world? We experience through various instruments. Now, these instruments have their own limitations. Now, if I have to experience everything, everything has to be reduced into an image, and therefore, ultimately what we are seeing is everything is only images, images, images. So now if I go beyond this example, now I just want to say that we need to see the limitations of the example. So you have to look at, now have you understood this part? The mirror example and the image. Can we see? Or the dream example and the dream object. Can we take 4 truths? The 4 truths are, the mirror is of a higher order of reality compared to the images on the mirror. Mirror is real, the images are all unreal. Anything that happens outside, if there is a fire outside and in the mirror I'm seeing something, the mirror does not get burnt, so the mirror is asangaha, and the mirror is not apart from, this is called advaya. So these examples are given to convey something. Let us not go beyond that. If you go beyond, then the example becomes a problem. So I hope, yeah, my volume is okay. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Sir, we have to don't give too much importance to the example. But see, Vedanta goes more and more into the dream example. Are you convinced about the dream example at least?
Yes.
The
Yes,
dream
example, I'm convinced.
All right. So we will not go so much into the eye example. So these are all, extensions of those examples. So we can get lost in these examples. But thank you so much for raising that question.
I think Dr. Venkatachalapati wants to ask a question. You can unmute and ask.
Sir, good evening, doctor. I am Dr. Venkatachalapati. So I have one doubt. You said dreams. Dreams are very good for health, or it going to reduce our health? How it will matters?
See, there is one person called Sigmund Freud who has done a lot of analysis about dreams. And he was one of the biggest authority in the analysis of dreams and to say what is the utility of dreams and so on. Now, finally, we've been able to conclude that dreams sometimes are useful from a medical angle in trying to guide a person if there has been some form of a suppression during the waking life, during the waking time, which can manifest in the form of dreams. Now, dreams happen, anybody and everybody, where you may be a great enlightened person also, dreams do happen. So dreams do have absolutely no significance as to health or disease. Even the great work of Sigmund Freud is not given too much importance to as it is given in those days. Now, we are really sidetracking by going more into the dreams. Whether it is of health or no health, may be important question. But again, in Vedanta and dreams will always go together, because in Advaita Vedanta, there can be no greater example compared to a dream example. Because in dream, I am the creator of the dream, I am the sustainer of the dream, and the dream resolves into me. In dream, I am ignorant of the fact that I am the creator and therefore I become a creature in my own dream and I suffer. Now, in Vedanta, we are using dreams only for this aspect. What is this aspect? All of us are creatures in this world, and as creatures, we suffer. You know, this is called the Triputi of Jiva Jagat Ishvara. This is also called the triangular format. As long as I am in the triangular format of Jiva Jagat Ishvara, every day I get up as a bhakta praying to the Lord. I do not know how my today is going to be. Oh Bhagwan, help me, because this Jagat is going to torment me. And oh Ishvara, help me. Once you come to Advaita Vedanta, there is a certain jump from what is called the triangular format to a binary format. What is this binary format? In this binary format, there are only two things, me and not me. I, the experiencer, and the whole world, which is the object of experience. Now, this requires a jump in our understanding. The jump in our understanding is, other than me, there is nothing else. There is nothing else as real as me. The I, the reality, which is other than my body and mind, I, who is the illuminator of my body and mind, who has given existence to this body and mind, and take that declaration. I means each of us who are listening can claim that Mayeva Sakalam Jatam. I am the one who has created this whole world. I sustain the world, and the whole world resolves into me. Now, this is what is called the binary format. In the binary format, there are two things. One, the experiencer. In Vedanta, it is also called Drik, and the whole world of my experience is Drishyam. Once you come into the binary format, one thing has disappeared. God has disappeared. I'm not saying there is no God. There is certainly Ishvara. But then you now know that this whole world is of a lower order of reality. And if anything happens to the lower order of reality, which includes 5 things, it includes my body, it includes my mind, it includes my possession, it includes my family, it includes my profession. Anything that happens to these 5 things, if I have really understood who I am asangoham, I am not affected. This is the Adhisthana. Of course, it takes time, but that is the role of Sri Dakshinamurti, that is the role of our Acharyas. That is the role of Satsangatve Nisangatvam. Nisangatve Nirmohatvam. Nirmohatve Nischala Tattvam. All these doubts get cleared. And once the doubts are cleared, each one of us can claim that we are Dakshinamurti.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? You're having a wonderful question-answer session as well as a great talk today. So this is your opportunity. If you have any questions, please do ask.
All these doubts that I expressed are 100% genuine doubts. You know, I really appreciate because Advaita Vedanta, if somebody speaks, you know, you will think that person is mad, that person has no sense. But I would like, you know, unless our doubts are cleared, you know, we will, the truth will never be able to be settled down. So therefore, I'm, you know, willing to be challenged. Not that I am any authority on this, because each of these questions will help us to clarify, are we clear about what we are talking?
Any questions for Dr. Hegde? Sir, things seem to be very clear to everyone. Those 3 questions were the, I think, main doubts of today's session. So we are...
Vani, we'll experience just 1 minute of silence.
Sure,
I request everybody to keep your eyes closed. Be seated wherever you are. I want you to Find a comfortable position. Keep your back upright. Keep your eyes closed, not too tight, not too loose. And with your eyes closed, I want you to picture Shri Dakshinamurti.
Kindly mute everyone, please. Venkateshwaralu, please mute. Don't unmute because it is getting recorded. There will be a disturbance.
I want you to see a picture of Shri Dakshinamurti. There is the young Acharya. You see Lord Shiva has come out of his meditation. He's normally deeply in like a Nirvikalpa Samadhi. He's lost to the world. But here, the great Lord Shiva has come out of his meditation. He's available to us as an Acharya. He has come in the form of a young, handsome, smiling teacher. And as a teacher, he is giving us a symbolic gesture. As you see Sri Dakshinamurti, keeps looking at that smiling face of the Lord. And this is called Swatma Ramam. All the time, being able to delight in one's own joy. You know, some people have called it being blissed out. When you are so much into meditation, there is so much joy that you experience it in the form of a very gentle smile on your face. Shri Dakshinamurti is showing us the Chin Mudra. The Chin Mudra is that the index finger is all of us. For relative, for transactional purposes, we have taken a certain role to play. But Shri Dakshinamurti is reminding us that the other three fingers are my gross body, subtle body, causal body. He wants us to move away from my body. He wants us to move away from the avastha. He wants us to move away from the three gunas and to come to the higher self represented by the thumb. That means, even though I am in the world, even though I am affected by everything in this world, mentally I move to my higher self and declare that I am Purna. Once I know I am Purna, then Shri Dakshinamurti is keeping his foot on the ground. This finger represents Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikyam. That means although I am living in this limited human body, I can claim my higher nature. I shall never forget it. By keeping my right foot on the ground, I am all the time going to claim my true nature. That means in and through Vyavahara, in and through all forms of activity, I play the role like an actor on the stage, playing the role of a doctor or a patient or a parent or a child, but all the time remembering my higher nature and doing whatever you can to keep your own spirits up and to keep the spirits of the people high in all our activity. You may gently open your eyes. Let us invoke the blessings of Shri Dakshinamurti in our endeavor to discover our true nature. Let us make prostrations to our Guru who has opened up these words and made these words live and meaningful for us. And to this satsang, which has given us this opportunity to share, my namaskara to Vani and Vasudev. Thank you very much.